All right, we are opened up to the next clean page in our math notebooks. We are titling today's notes 13.3, Write Numerical Expressions. And then today's date, 3/15/21. Write numerical expressions. And if you remember, when we see the word numerical, you should probably be thinking about what word? Well, number. When we see the word expression, what word can we think of for expression? Addie? Those are operations that we can use in an expression. What's an expression? What's an expression? Mackenzie? That's something we can use in an expression. Frankie? Those are the order of operations that we use in an expression. Philip?
Expression is like adding two numbers together.
That's something we can, what?
A problem.
Like a problem or a, Allison?
Equation.
Okay, well?
Like a question, like a math question.
Like a number sentence or equation. So today we are writing number equations or number sentences. So you know how last week we were learning how to solve numerical expressions using PEMDAS? Today we're going to be writing them based on words that are given to us. So if someone said to you, okay, I want you to write out this equation, you don't even have to solve it. You're going to add 150 and 5, then you are going to divide it by 2, and then you're going to subtract 10. You would think, how would I write that so that people knew what order to do the steps in? How would I write that equation? Does that make sense? So we're going from words to numbers. I would like everyone to be sitting up, so Drew, Jack, and Jack, your heads should not be down on your tables. Thank you. Okay. So before we can write numerical expressions, we need to understand math talk. So go ahead and write this down. In order to write expressions, we need to understand math talk. And what that means, we need to understand some of the different phrases and words we might be given and understand, okay, what operation does that phrase tell me to use? Or what operation does this word tell me to use? So in order to write expressions, we need to understand math talk. So we're first going to talk about some phrases and words we would see for each of the operations. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Then we're going to practice writing them out ourselves. So give me a thumbs up when you have this sentence written down. Thank you, Grayson and Will, and Iosius. Thank you, Layla and Frankie and Emmy. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Michael. I like to think of writing numerical expressions kind of as writing in code or translating a sentence into a math language. It's one of my favorite things to do because sometimes you'll come across a phrase and think, okay, what operation am I supposed to use based on those couple words that they just used? And so you're kind of having to translate a sentence into numbers and operation symbols. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you guys do too. It's kind of fun. Okay, thank you, Elena. I see a few people finishing up. Thank you, Sana. I'll give you another moment or so. Thank you, Jack and Zoe. Thank you, Emmy and Allison and Richie. Thank you, Jack and Addie. Okay, so we are first going to write down some math talk we would see for addition and subtraction. So these are some words we could see and what it would tell us to do. So go ahead and let's see. I used 1, 2, here. Actually, why don't you wait to put the boxes around them? Just write it out. So for addition, which is plus, if we see the word sum, total, plus, in all together, and perimeter, can you get the door, Zoe, please? Join, increase by, or together, that all means addition. Yeah, my door is not working right now.
Can I do a quick survey?
Sure.
So, next year, they have this planner that is available, which is a little different than the planners we're using right now. Okay, so you can see it's a smaller planner, but in the days, it just has the day listed on it, and you'd have to write in the subjects. Like, your planners have all the subjects already written in it. You understand? Mm-hmm. But it's smaller, and then at the beginning of the month, they have a whole month, so you can see the month, so that you can see the month thing. But then each day you'd have to write in your daily assignment. Okay? So we're just doing a survey to find out who would prefer to keep the old ones and who would like the new one. Does everybody understand? Anybody have questions about it? So who would prefer to have this one?
But this one does not have the subjects already outlined for
So
you.
you'd have to write in religion, this is the assignment. Social studies, this is the assignment. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that means, how many are here today?
20, so 13.
13,
then.
that's one of the old ones.
Yes.
Okay, I'll give these to the office and they can make the, how
All
they're
right.
going to do it.
Thank you, Mr.
Right
Hale.
now, it looks like the old ones have the.
All right. Okay. Interesting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hale. All right, back to math notes. Then we have, okay, and, perimeter, join, increase by, and together. So if we saw any of these words in a sentence, it would automatically tell us, okay, addition, we're adding. On the opposite end, if we were to see any of these words in the subtraction box, that would tell us, okay, that means we're talking about subtraction or taking away. So, difference, less than, minus, take away, fewer, left over, exceed, are not, remain, decreases, or how many more. If we saw any of these words or phrases, that would tell us, okay, we are subtracting. So go ahead, give me a thumbs up when you have these down, and then I'm going to show you the next row, which is multiplication and division. So again, this is what, if I say math talk, I'm talking about terms or words we use in math that let us know what we're doing. So all of these words and phrases you can think of as clues. When you need to translate from a sentence to math, numbers, operations, these words give you a clue as to what operation you are using. So if I said you start with 20 and take away 3, that takeaway, that's my clue. We're subtracting 20 minus 3. Or if I say add 25 plus 5, and then have it be increased by 10 more. I know that I'm adding 25 plus 5, then plus 10. So these words give us a clue as to what operations we are using. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up, Will. Thank you, Mackenzie. Kind of like in Spanish, and before you guys can start forming sentences, you need to know what individual words are, right? So you can kind of think of it like this. We're writing out a bunch of these different words that translate to an operation, like addition or subtraction or multiplication or division. Does that make sense? Okay. Now I know you guys all know what like add or subtract or divide or multiply mean, but we know in sentences they don't always just say add, and they don't always just say subtract. Sometimes they use different words or phrases to mean subtract or add. Do you think it might be helpful to have this page in your notebook open when you do your homework tonight? Yeah, because then you can look over and see, okay, I see this phrase, I see exceed. What does that mean? And then you can look back at your notes. Oh, it means to subtract. Yes, Sarah.
For R not, can we write out?
I would put R not.
Okay.
I would put R not, just to be very clear. But you're right, if you were to see the contraction aren't, then yes, that would be the same as R not. Good job, fifth grade. I'll give you another moment or so. Thank you, Frankie. A few people finishing up one of the boxes. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Allison, and Senna, and Leila. Thank you, Philip. Michael, make sure you're sitting up. Thank you. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Grayson. All right. I'm going to scoot up my page a little bit. You'll still be able to see addition and subtraction, but I'm going to show you multiplication and division. So just like how there are words and phrases that give us a clue that we're subtracting or adding, we have the same thing for multiplying and dividing. So for multiplication and division, we have these words. So for multiplication, we have times. I think that's the one we hear the most, right? Times or multiply. Then we have each, in all, twice, product, per, area, factor, multiple, multiplied by, and equal groups. Then we have division. And some words that tell us we're dividing are half. So we know if we split something in half, we're dividing by 2. The same, split, quotient, which we know is the answer to a division problem. The divisor, that's the number we're dividing by. Equal group, separate, distribute, divided by. Dividend, that's the number we're dividing up. Shared equally, and cut or split up. So, those are some words that you might see. Now, I don't want you guys to be freaked out and think, oh my gosh, they're going to use all of these words in one equation or one number sentence. No, absolutely not. But you might see one word for addition, and then a word for division, and a word for multiplication, all in the same expression, written in words that then you would translate to numbers. Now, today, 5th grade, we're not going to be solving our expressions. We're just translating them from words to numbers and operations. We're not actually going to be solving them today. We're just practicing, okay, if we're given a sentence, how do I then write that in numbers and operations and symbols? You can go ahead and give me a thumbs up when you have this written down. Thank you, Mackenzie. Well, thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Richie. Thank you, Allison. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Zoe. As you're looking at some of these words, you might wonder, how would that mean in division, for example? Well, if they said to separate into 3 equal groups, for example, that's why separate in equal groups would work. Because if we're separating a number into 3 equal groups, we know that we're dividing it into 3 equal groups. Or if we're finding the area of a rectangle, we've practiced that, so we know that area, that's usually length times the width, if it's of a rectangle or a square, so we would be multiplying. Well, if you're finding the factor of something else, that is also multiplied. Thank you, Sana. A few people finishing up their last box, so I'll give you another moment or so. What we're going to be doing after we have all these down is we will be doing we'll be doing 1 example and then 3 practice problems. So we'll do 1 together, and then I'm going to give you 3 practice problems to see how you do on your own with it. Remember, it was daylight savings time, so it's technically 9:90 on the page. Oops. Thank you, Philip. Thank you, Emmy. Thank you, Layla. Thank you, Addie. Thank you to all of you who are being patient while some of your classmates finish up. Those of you who are finishing up, you have about 1 more minute. All right. So, we're going to write down an example that we are going to solve together. Capiche? All right. So, books away, drawings away. Thank you to those of you who are waiting patiently. So, here's our example. So, we're given a sentence and we need to put it into just numbers and operations. So, our example is add 91, 129, and 16, and then divide by 44. So I want you to write down this sentence just so that you have the example written down. Maybe you think you've already done it in your head, but still write this down, please. So add 91, 129, and 16, and then divide by 44. So again, we're going to take our words and translate it into an equation or a number sentence with operations and numbers. Once you have it written down, I'd like you to try and write out that equation and remember the different elements. Think about PEMDAS. Is there anything you would want to put parentheses or grouping symbols around? Are you multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting? We won't do anything with exponents. So just think about that. Think about grouping symbols, multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. Go ahead and jot down what you think this would look like as an equation, not just a sentence. I want you to try it, and then we'll do it together after the example. Okay? I want you here for it. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Emmy. So I'll give you a minute or so to try this, and then we'll look at it together. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Mackenzie. Thank you, Sana. And I'll show you guys kind of what I like to do before I write out my number sentence as well, or my equation. All right, ready to rock? All right, heads up. Somewhere on the desk. Put your stuff away. Okay, I'm going to show you guys how I like to do this. So when I look at a sentence like this, first thing I do is I'm thinking, what words tell me the operations I'm going to be using? So raise your hand if there is one word that you see that tells us what we're doing in this sentence. Drew, what's one of the words? Add. So add tells me I'm adding. So what I like to do, 5th grade, is write like above or below the word, and I put the symbol of the operation. So why don't you go ahead and do this, even if you did it all in your head, go ahead and do what I'm doing as well, just so that you can see another method. What's another word that tells us what we're doing in this sentence? Let's see. Elena. divide by. So that tells me I'm dividing. So now I'm going to put a division symbol above that. Now, are there any other important words in this sentence? Maybe they don't tell us an operation, but are there any other important words in this sentence? Emmy? Well, that kind of goes with divide. So divide by tells us we're dividing. Yep. There's one other word that's very important in this sentence, and it's not a number, it's a word. Let's see. Addie?
Five.
What?
Five.
That's what Emmy said. Not quite. Michael? Then. Turn and talk with the person next to you. Why is then an important word in the sentence? Raise your hand if you can tell me, why is then such an important word in this sentence? Why is it so important, Richie? Yes, it tells me the order I'm doing it in, right? So, then doesn't have an operation, but what I like to do is bring attention to it by circling it or underlining it. So you can go ahead and do that too. All right. Is there anything else that I need to add a symbol or emphasize or anything in the sentence? No, not really. We have our numbers. We can see our numbers. So now that I've gone through and I've matched words with their operations using the box, our math talk, and then I've circled any important words that don't have to do with an operation but tell me the order to do them in, now I'm ready to start writing it out. So add 91, 129, and 16. So I'm just going to right away just go ahead and start doing that. So I'm adding 91 plus 129 plus 16. How many of you have that somewhere in your expression? How many of you have that somewhere in your expression? Okay. And then divide by 44. So then I'm dividing by 44. Now, 5th grade, what would be the issue here if I left my expression like this? Because I did write, add 91, 129, and 16, then divide by 44. What's the issue with what I have right now? Turn and talk to the person next to you. What's the issue? Ready to rock. Ready to rock. So, I heard this a couple times. If I were to follow the rules of PEMDAS, which we should always do, right? What operation would I be doing first with the expression I have here? What operation would I be doing first? Mackenzie? I'd be divided. But remember, I circled the word then to remind myself that we're adding and then dividing. So what can I do to make sure we add before we divide, even though division comes before addition in PEMDAS? What do I need to do, Chanel? Around. I need to put parentheses around 91 plus 129 plus 16. Now, am I adding before I divide? Yes. So 5th grade, whenever you see in a number sentence like this, or in a sentence, that you're supposed to do something before something else, it never hurts to put parentheses around the first step. Even if it already comes before in PEMDAS, then it really draws attention to whoever's solving it that, hey, you need to solve this first. Now, technically, could I put a bracket at the very beginning and the very end as well? Technically, I could, but I don't need to. because we don't have more than one operation outside of our parentheses. Does this make a little bit of sense? Okay. Let's label our practice section. Let's label our practice section. And I would recommend, if you don't already, put a PEMDAS off to the side so that you can remind yourself what the order of operations is. Now, 5th grade, did you notice that we did not solve the example? Yes. Because all that we're doing today is practicing writing it. Yep. So we're writing numerical expressions. We are not solving them. Yes. We're writing them with numbers, grouping symbols, and operations. We are not solving them. So it's a little bit like translating to a different language, isn't it? Yeah, you're picking out, okay, which symbol matches the words in my sentence, and which numbers am I using with those symbols to write out this equation. Yes, Layla? Practice problems? You have 3. You have 3 today. So if you need to go onto the back of your page, you can. Are you ready to see them? Okay. When you get them all written out, you can immediately start writing them. And I would say it never hurts to go ahead and do what I did by matching the operations to the words and circling or underlining any important words in your sentence. Capiche? All right, here are your practice problems. So number 1, find 8.5 times the difference between 77 and 13. Remember, we're not actually solving it. We're just writing the equation. Number 2, subtract 55 from the sum of 234 and 8. And number 3, add 49 to the quotient of 125 and 5. Then take away 12. Don't forget to use your math talk boxes at the top of your page to remind yourself what those words and phrases mean, and writing them by those words. This can be very helpful. Yes, Emmy. Do you have one in your locker? In your backpack? Do you have the extra one? Okay, why don't you go check? Yes, Frankie?
The number 1 between 77 and 13, is that a plus symbol?
That's an and symbol. It doesn't show up as well on the smartboard. Between 77 and 13, that's an and symbol, not a plus symbol. No. You're finding the difference. Think about what that means. All right, come over here. I'll staple it for you. You can take it off. Thank you, Zoe. Quickly. Jack, come on. So again, these are and symbols. Between 77 and 13 is an and between 234 and 8, that's a symbol. I like that people are circling important words in the sentences and writing the operations above the words that they match with. Okay, you don't need to write an and symbol in negative. You can write out the word and. It's totally fine. If you're done and you want a challenge, you can try writing out your own sentence to translate into numbers and operations. Ready to rock. All right, let's look at these, you guys. Let's see if you get what I get. So go ahead, put away whatever books you're reading, whatever drawings you're working on. If you're writing out other things, if you challenged yourself and wrote your own math sentence, let's look at them together. So, Addie, put your book away. I know it's good, but put it away. Zoe, make sure your drawing is put away. Okay, so when I look at number one, I'm going to do what I did up above. I'm going to put my operation symbols next to the words and circle or underline any other important words. So I find 8.5 times. So times tells me I am multiplying. The difference, if I look up back in my chart, I can see difference means subtraction between 77 and 13. So I'm taking 8.5 times, and it says the difference between 77 and 13. So that tells me my subtraction symbol needs to go between 77 and 13. Now, I need to do one of these steps before the other, because if I look at just PEMDAS, I do parentheses, exponents, then I multiply before I subtract. Well, it says I need to multiply the difference between 77 and 13, which means I need to subtract 77 and 13 first. So that's what I would put my parentheses around. Give me a thumbs up if that's what you got. Okay. Did anyone get the order right, but just maybe put the parentheses around the wrong ones? Okay, that's okay. As long as you're getting the order right, that's a great first step. This is our first day writing these out. Okay, so we have number 2. So for number 2, I see the word subtract. So I'm going to put a subtraction sign. Subtract 55 from the sum. Well, sum is the answer to an addition problem. So I'm adding of 234 and 8. Now, this one was a little tricky because we start with subtracting 55. How many of you wrote 55 minus something? Did anyone write 55 minus something? Now, that doesn't work because we're subtracting 55 from something else. So it's actually minus 55. So I'm going to write minus 55, and then we need to ask, okay, well, what are we taking 55 away from? We're subtracting 55 from the sum of 234 and 8. So that means 234 plus 8 should be in front of our minus 55.
It kind of looks like you're going from down and up.
Exactly.
No, you're actually going that way.
You're absolutely right. So, before we can subtract 55, though, we need to find the sum of 234 and 8. So I would put my parentheses around 234 and 8. How many of you, first of all, how many of you got that one correct? That one was tricky. Okay, how many of you got a little tripped up with where you need to put parentheses or where the minus 55 or the 55 and minus sign needed to go? Yep, that one was tricky. Yes, Michael?
I have 55 minus, and then parentheses 234. So I just have the 55 minus 50 or something.
Wait, what? Okay, what do you have?
So instead of the left side being blank, I have the minus 55 on that side.
So you have 55 minus this? That doesn't work because we're not taking 55 and subtracting this. We're taking this and subtracting 55 from it. So you need to have the minus 55 on the right side. Okay? So we're not starting with 55 and subtracting the sum of 234 and 8. We're subtracting 55 from 234 plus 8. So we need to have 234 plus 8 minus 55. That one was tricky. That one was definitely tricky. And I'll let you guys know, I purposefully picked a few practice problems that were a little difficult, just so we could do them together. And then we had number 3. So up to this point, we kind of had 2-step equations. The first one, we would take 77 minus 13 and then multiply by 8.5. The second one, we would take 234 plus 8, then subtract 55. Number 3, though, we have 3 steps. So if I'm looking at it, first I have add. So I'm going to put an addition symbol. Add 49 to the quotient of. So quotient is the answer to a division problem of 125 and 5. Then take away 12. Well, take away, that means I am subtracting. So I'm going to put a minus sign. So I have adding, dividing, and subtracting. So add 49 to the quotient of 125 and 5. So that means I'm taking 49 and I'm adding it to 125 divided by 5. And then I'm taking away 12, or subtracting 12. How many of you got your numbers in the correct order? You got 49 plus 125 divided by 5 minus 12. How many of you got your numbers in the correct order here? Okay. Technically, you could also have 125 divided by 5 plus 49 minus 12. That would also work. So if you had your plus 49 between the 5 and the subtraction sign, technically that would work too. Technically that would work. Now, 5th grade, what is our first step here, though? What is going to have to be solved first? What should we be putting our parentheses around? Jack L? Exactly. 125 divided by 5. Now, technically, you wouldn't need to do that first because we need to find the quotient to it, the answer. Technically, if I left it like this, this would work because I would solve what's in parentheses first. So 125 divided by 5, I get that number. Then I'd have 49 plus that number minus 12. And I would just go left to right then, right? I would be adding before subtracting. However, if I really wanted to, what could I also put here? What could I also put here, Will?
This isn't about what you do.
Okay, what could I also put here? Addie? Or brackets, right? I could do brackets since we already have parentheses. I could put a bracket in front of 49 and behind that parentheses so that I make sure I solve what's in parentheses first. Then I solve 49 plus what was in parentheses, and then finally I take that and subtract it from 12. I could put brackets around this part if I wanted to, but I don't need to. All right, Will, what's your question? Technically, you're right. You wouldn't need parentheses because in PEMDAS, we should be dividing first anyways. However, it could be really easy for someone to accidentally just start from the left and work to the right, right? Yeah, so I always like to put parentheses around the first step if there's multiple steps, just to make sure whoever's solving it, make sure they're solving the first step correctly. So technically, 5th grade, if you didn't put any parentheses in this and you had your numbers and operations in the same spots I did, that would be totally fine as well. All right, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. So my first question, how many of you, or show me how you're feeling with just identifying or matching the word to their operation. So if I see times, I know it means multiply. If I see quotient, I know it means divide. Show me 1 through 5. How do you feel about that? Just that skill. Not even writing it all out, but matching the words to their operations. 1 through 5, how do you feel with that? Okay. Okay. Then, show me 1 through 5. How are you feeling with at least getting the numbers in the right order in the equation? Not even talking about parentheses. How are you feeling with getting the numbers in the right order? 1 through 5, show me. Be honest with me. Philip, your eyes should be closed, dude. Please follow my directions. All right. And then, how are you feeling 1 through 5 with writing out the entire equation and putting parentheses around what you need to put parentheses around? 1 through 5, how are you feeling? Okay, hands down. Hands down. Open your eyes. Emmy, sharpen your pencil. I would like you to take out your math workbook. Open up to page 751. 751. Yep, 751.
Are we just gonna have to like solve tomorrow on our notes? Are you gonna be solving the problem?
You find that.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
I did that. Then
Yeah.
4.5.
4.5. Okay. So on page 751 and 752, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. You should be circling numbers 1 through 4. So numbers 1 through 4. Number 8 and then number 13 and 14. So I'm going to say that again. On 751 and 752, you are circling numbers 1 through 4, number 8, number 13, and number 14. I will turn on some work music. You have about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, before we transition into language arts. Go ahead. Nice work today.